If you had a psychic bomb inside of your head, what would you do? You must learn to control your powers, but each time you use them, you will be one step closer to death. No one can help you, and you'll have to battle horrifying killers using kids as meat shields, fighting off psycho cults, and getting into death games with the most powerful psychics of all time, while going through the most terrifying thing of all time, 8th grade. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat Ghost Puberty and Mob Psycho 100. This guy's student is about to kill everyone he knows. Reagan here is your local fake psychic that pretends to solve real ghost problems using pure confidence. Getting called on his next case, this scared couple pays him to perform an exorcism, and a ghost shows up. But they figure out this guy is a fraud, and everyone is about to die, but Reagan plays it cool and calls up his ultimate weapon, this confused kid named Mob, who's running out of time, 22% until Mob explosion. Seeking his master's approval, Mob instantly obliterates this ghost like it was nothing and completes the case, shocking everyone here. But after he tells his boss that he feels weird each time he uses his powers and thinks something bad will soon happen if he keeps doing this, but Reagan tells him what's at stake. The only way to control his powers is by figuring out his mind and practicing, or else his powers will soon kill him anyways. So keep it on, keep it on. Mob quickly realizes that he must figure his shit out and discover who he really is before his mind kills him, and he rushes back home to his family to calm himself after a stressful day and chills with his more awesome brother Ritsu. Born without powers, Ritsu has to rely on just his brains, and Mob wishes he was more successful in life like him and not a monster. But his jealous brother will soon try to kill him. The next day at school, he messes up talking to his high school crush again and starts to think that without girls liking him, he'll never be happy in life and starts to stress out more, 25% until Mob explosion. He heads on over to meet his boss, getting warned that his next assignment is risky as hell. The job: sneak into this school to meet a client dressed up as school girls. Reaching, they suddenly don't let Reagan in, forcing Mob to go in without him. Now alone without his master, he struggles to calm down before he faces his next death match alone, 35% until Mob explosion. Sneaking in, he meets the client, these girls, telling him his boss can't make it and pisses off these two. They don't think Mob can handle what's at stake. The girl thinks this ghost is nothing like he's ever seen, but he soon senses the target and traps it in the stadium, announcing his presence and putting the evil ghost on alert. Okay, well, it looks like we're in serious trouble. There was a much better, way easier way to do this, alright? Okay, it involves chemically reacting rocks and stealing a crap ton of money from schoolgirls. Here's how we do it. First off, we're facing against the same type of ghost that was in the horror film The Conjuring 2, side note, so based on that we should have been a little bit better prepared. Private schools in general are much smaller, so they can oversee everything that's going on, and in order to take on this thing more effectively, there's two things that Reagan did wrong that ruined everything from the get-go. One, since the client is coming to us, they should have either helped us get in or could have set up a meeting that we could have had access to, because this is just ridiculous. And two, Reagan here's the boss man. He didn't need to go in for most of it. If I was him, I would have planned better. Seriously, I would have just let Mob go in first. He could blend in better and scan the area for signs of ghosts. Ghosts usually haunt places for these reasons: unfinished business, where tragic events happen, positive emotions, negative emotions, strong emotions. Because of this stuff, I would prepared a list of areas most likely to be haunted based on these factors and gone down the list most likely first in order to get through it quickly. But if we're getting paid by the hour, then I would just flip the list. Then we take a super long time, and then we get paid more because I'm bored and I need the money. And plus, cheating Japanese schoolgirls out of the lunch money is gonna be super fun. And look, once we find the location of the ghost, all we gotta do is sneak in from the area closest to the haunting spot. And hello, looking around at all-girls school as a grown man is risky as hell. From outside the stadium, don't you see that there's a fence in the background? We could have simply snuck in over there way easier, and we could have done this at night. Unlike Mob, we're not some overpowered hero destined for greatness or a horrible tragic ending. In order to beat this spirit, and as a good first step for any ghost encounter, why didn't you look at where this all started? Ghosts in general thrive in closed-off areas that don't get as much air or life in, such as houses that never open their windows or doors that are always closed. And I can tell that this gym hall has a few windows high up with a steel roof above it, and because of it, it's likely that the inside would trap heat very easily, especially in summer, and the high windows not being accessible in general means the gym would have had a harder time letting out built-up heat. That basically means this place was an energy-producing factory from the start, and whatever ghost was in there was super powerful. Because of this, I would have used my very impressive and simple 5-step ghost ass-kicking plan. 1. Approach the site cautiously and show respect for the potential spirit, because we don't want to piss it off more, duh. And then quietly open all the doors and windows to let out any negative energy, because this place stinks and there's bad juju in here. We gotta let it out. 2. Get some sea salt magic. A little sprinkle of rock salt along doorways to absorb any negative energy left, and then deploy rock crystals strategically around the building to absorb even more negative energy. These are just rocks that are capable of undergoing a chemical reaction and change the state of the air around it when they react with oxygen. Then 3. Whip out a little bit of herbal enchantment, and also, while firmly yet outside very calmly, instructing the ghost to exit the area without using the word please. The minute you say please, they know that you are their bitch. Pissed off, the ghost attacks Mob but finds out he's too powerful and Mob easily defeats it, thinking he saved the school. About to die, the sneaky ghost reads his mind and makes him question if ghost hunting really makes him happy, because like everyone in his life is using him, including the boss he loves, Reagan. Yeah, then Mob gets really pissed off at this and then kills him. But hey, it's too late. You're now at 38% until Mob explosion. Shit. Then he starts to overthink what the ghost said, but he doesn't want to let Reagan down and quit. And because of this, he's gonna go through all sorts of crazy shit in order to save his life. Now, feeling worse than before, he decides to join an after-school club, desperate to find some happiness before it's too late. And then he signs up for this telepathy club, but finds out they've been taken down by a group with the most dangerous guns in the world. These guns, the Six-Pack Stud Club. They have co-rented out this room, but Mob doesn't realize their muscles might be the key to saving his life. They tell Mob is down and tell him that being jacked will solve all of his problems. Remembering his high school crush, Tsumobi, he signs up and thinks getting jacked will finally help him. And boy, that's a big mistake. He works out regularly with the Chads, but he can't keep up and soon passes out. Waking up back in school, he gets sad that he's so weak without his powers and now feels even worse. 40% until Mob explosion. And he doesn't want to die, so he rushes home to figure out his next move, but runs into someone strange, running into a lady who sells him happiness cult. Yeah. This lady wearing a strange mask tells him that she can tell he's unhappy in life and asks him to join her totally not a cult group, but Mob doesn't trust strangers unless she can help him solve his popularity problems. Gullible. She says she can, so he trusts her immediately and follows her right into a trap. Wow. This girl pulled a shady move, revealing herself as basically a mentalist, a pseudo-psychic who excels at reading people. If he was more self-aware, he could have realized that she wasn't gifted and was just looking at the signs he was giving off by the bajillions. Look, according to experts, mentalists in general have knowledge in these areas: memorization and calculation, body language and reading, suggestion and hypnosis. And using all this mumbo jumbo and tricks, you should be able to tell if we're down about life. It carries in our bodies and reflects how we subconsciously present ourselves to the world. It's noted that when we're walking down the street, we had tight shoulders, a very obvious sign that is usually caused by stress and anxiety, which is caused by the body's fight or flight response, in order to better help us confront or survive an incoming threat, even when the threat is all in our head. And also, puberty-related hormone struggles are common for someone our age, which means the mentalist had such an easy time reading us. You probably knew that we even had girl problems. It wouldn't have been that hard to guess. It means the Mob here fell for the easiest trick in the book due to his vulnerability. Heading in, they meet their leader of the cult, Mr. Dimple. Mob thinks everyone here wants to be popular too, pushing him on stage with these other recruits. One of them is a girl from his class, Mitsato. The leader tells them they need to unlock their mind to become happy, but right now it's locked. And this happy mask will solve all of their problems. Realizing she's screwed, Mitsato reveals she is actually undercover for the school newspaper and is about to expose him for brainwashing these people. But Dimple tells her she can't leave until she laughs, and then they force her and Mob to put on happy masks, turning Mitsato into a smiling zombie, but it doesn't work on Mob, shocking everyone here. And Mr. Dimple gets angry and challenges Mob to a staring contest. The first person to smile while drinking milk loses, and Mob competes against Dimple's top members, stressing him out even more, and now he's at 58% until Mob explosion. And look, Mob barely wins the first match and doesn't laugh, forcing Dimple to join in, but he suddenly realizes this milk has been spiked, and he starts laughing and losing the match and sucking at one more thing in life. And now he's at 74% until Mob explosion. Dimple hypnotizes his followers to start laughing, making Mob realize this cult leader must have psychic powers, and he tells everyone he can't smile because he isn't happy. But Mr. Dimple says he'll never find love without smiling, pissing Mob off even more. Gosh, he's now at 92% until Mob explosion. Oh no. And now he's angry and Mob refuses to smile, so Dimple orders his minions to attack Mob right now. And that was his biggest mistake. 100% Mob loses control of his emotions and destroys everything here and blacks out. Whoa. The next day, suddenly Mob wakes up, but he can tell that something is really wrong. 0% until Mob explosion. And then he sees a strange spirit in his room. 20% until Mob explosion. Realizing it's the ghost from cult, Dimple. He survived, but is now too weak to do anything, and convinces Mob that he'll help him find happiness if they can team up, tricking this kid into the worst mistakes of his life. Later at school, the bad kid, Tenga, has a problem with another school. He asks Mob's club, the Six-Pack Studs, to help him take them out, but they refuse, forcing him to hatch an evil plan involving Mob. A little later, Mob gets a love letter in his locker with instructions to meet at another location. Since no one loves him, Mob thinks it's weird, and Dimple thinks the letter is fake, but Mob doesn't listen to him, and he goes to check it out anyways. Showing up, he gets kidnapped by this enemy school for showing up to their gang territory. But suddenly, his after-school club, the Six-Pack Studs, show up. Since he missed his workout practice, they followed him here. The enemy school tells these chads they're about to get their ass kicked for showing up here, forcing the Six-Pack studs to take them out, just as Tango planned. Mob says he's fine, not revealing that he's starting to feel something really serious, 28% until mob explosion. But fortunately, the muscle group easily kicks all of these kids' asses using their bulging muscles, until one evil kid shows up, the one who's gonna cause mob to break down. Teru, Six-Pack Stud Club, tells this kid that they don't want to fight him, but he doesn't give an F and kicks all of their asses without muscles, using his powers. Shocking Mob at how evil he is, 45% until mob explosion. Teru senses Mob's powers and dares him to fight, but Mob tells him harming people is against his training, which pisses this guy off and he attacks Mob, 47% until mob explosion, but barely even scratches him. Mob doesn't want to live a life relying on his powers. Teru, thinking he's a god and shouldn't be just like regular humans, starts beating Mob even more, but he doesn't move an inch. Dimple tells Teru to piss off and tries to stop him, but gets obliterated right away in front of Mob. Oh boy, now we're at 50% until mob explosion. Teru lunges at him, blasting through buildings, demanding he show his powers, and he fires these knives at Mob, deflecting and bouncing him back right at Teru, balding him. Mob starts to realize that Teru is secretly scared to live a life without powers, and that's why he's overcompensating. They're basically the same deep down. Shocking Teru, he chokes Mob, begging him to use his powers. 72% until mob explosion, 75% until mob explosion, making Mob quickly choke to death. 79, 80, he punches him softly, but Teru wants more. 82%, about to die. 89, he punches him again. 95%. Finally passing out, Teru gets scared at what he's just done and begs Mob to wake up. Thinking he's dead, he leaves, but that's when Mob wakes up, blasting Teru back. Finally using his powers and makes this guy happy until he notices something strange. Mob is now unconscious. The building suddenly breaks apart, dragging Teru with him into the sky in terror. He begs Mob to forgive him, but Mob can't hear him, drowning in sadness, crashing everything down, critically injuring Teru. After Mob wakes up feeling different. Teru, seeing his true power-up, Riley apologizes for being a dick, and Mob forgives him, making Teru now question his own life, while the Six-Pack Stud Club cheers for Mob, and after he tries to look for Dimple but he can't find him, and goes home feeling empty without his friend. Reaching home, he tries to reconnect with his brother more, and apologizes for harming him with his powers when he was younger, and Ritsu tells him it's aight, not revealing that he's heard from people about what Mob just did, and is getting even more jealous of his powers. Frustrated, Ritsu ends up going for a walk. When he gets approached by this rich guy, mistaking him for Mob, he tells him he heard about what he did to those gang members at school, and tells Ritsu that he runs a lab where kids with weak psychic powers try to amplify their powers, including himself. So he offers him a job, thinking he's Mob, to help him make his powers stronger. Heading to the facility, he gets put through a ton of tests, but thinks that nothing's working, and confesses to the rich guy that he actually has no powers because he's not Mob, not realizing that his powers deep down have already been activated, while rumors of Teru's ass-kicking have now put a target on Mob's back. Ritsu returns home, but runs into Dimple, who has survived. Lying that he is Mob's mentor, he offers to team up with Ritsu, but doesn't tell him he's trying to use him, revealing what Ritsu doesn't know, that he has just awakened his powers because there's no way he would be able to see him. Shocking him at all of this, Dimple offers to help him if Ritsu lends him his body. Excited, Ritsu agrees and gets his body taken over. While Dimple realizes that he's too weak to possess anyone, Ritsu thinks his powers must have always been within him, but thanks to the rich guy, his powers have now awakened. But then he quickly figures out that his personality is changing, and he's getting more power hungry, beating up students that get in his way, and he soon bumps into Teru. Dimple warns him to back away slowly, but he doesn't listen and challenges Teru to a fight. Teru warns Ritsu that he used to be like him, but using his powers won't make him happy. Ritsu tells him to shut his pie hole and gets put in his place. Disappointed, he tells Dimple he wants to become more powerful. Heading back to the lab, he reveals to the rich guy and the other kids about his recent powers. The next day in class, Ritsu gets told that trouble is waiting outside. The school rival has come to challenge the one who defeated Teru and become the new champion of the school block. Ritsu goes out and they mistake him for Mob, but Ritsu easily kicks this guy's ass, causing all the toughest schools to come for him, quickly surrounding him. Ritsu still says he's the one who beat up Teru and starts beating up the kids one by one, not realizing he's being watched by somebody evil. He makes some bad guy speech now about how he's a god and blah blah blah, and then meanwhile, Teru watches from the distance and alerts Mob to come. Showing up, Mob is shocked and tells him to stop being evil, but Ritsu prepares to go against his own brother, and shit gets a little too real, forcing Dimple to leave Ritsu's body, but now too late, he's already learned about all his powers, and Mob can tell something is bothering his younger brother, but congratulates him on his powers, pissing him off even more because he wants to know why is Mob being so nice. He reveals due to Mob's unstable powers, he's been scared of him all these years and was jealous, but now he can finally be free of his brother. Mob thinks he's being a little bit silly and apologizes to all the bad guys on behalf of his brother because he's like, my brother's a little embarrassing right now, which super embarrasses Ritsu, and Mob says he can't get rid of their bromance because they can't. Suddenly, this stranger jumps down in front of everybody, slamming Ritsu with precision precision and skill, and announces to everyone that he's come for the most powerful one here, Ritsu. Confusing these two, they try to stop him but get their asses brutally kicked. And suddenly Mob is put into a high state of stress, 57% until Mob explosion. Mob tries to save Ritsu but gets knocked back, showing everyone how powerful this psychic villain is. But Mob gets back up, now pissed, and the two duke it out. The enemy creates a telekinetic helix punch, beating him senseless, while everyone watches, sending Mob into a spiral. 99% until Mob explosion. Oh shit. Ritsu rushes to stop the fight, but Mob's mind finally breaks. Unleashing a new power, he goes berserk and destroys the entire area, and everyone finally realizes how powerful Mob really is. At his last ropes, the bad guy plays dirty and sprays Mob to sleep, quickly kidnapping Ritsu, not realizing that he just kidnapped the wrong person. Waking up later, True saves Mob and tells him who kidnapped his brother, because he's been tracking them down for years. An organization known as Claw, made up of a bunch of crazy psychics that want to destroy the world. They have 100 members, facilities all around the globe, and they've tried to turn humans into psychics, but so far only Claw has succeeded and have turned young kids into soldiers. They're weaker than natural psychics, but their numbers can easily destroy them. And before he got kidnapped, Ritsu was visiting one of these factories. Dimple reveals that he's still alive to Mob and gets back on his team, before guiding them to where Ritsu got his powers. Rushing there, they notice everyone's unconscious except the rich owner guy, but he tells them he doesn't know anything about what's going on, and this whole time he thought Ritsu was Mob. They suspect this factory must have awakened his powers. Knowing what's at stake, these three plan their next move. True wants to join since he's been looking for Claw this whole time anyways. And suddenly a team busts in. It's Claw's henchmen, ready to kick ass, and they get beat up in 2 seconds. Defeated, they confess where their evil headquarters is, and this henchman tells them what they should expect to face when they get there. The night they get there, and they scout around looking for trouble. And that's when one of the henchmen breaks free from his cuffs, giving him time to activate his psychic powers, and throws a tree at these two. He throws True back, exposing himself, but Mob brutally crushes him for good without raising any enemy alarms. Heading back to the Claw entrance, they use air whips to knock these guards out. Rushing in, Dimple also manages to possess one of them, which is easier to do when you're in shock, and quickly takes over the area, forcing these two bad guys to tell him where Ritsu is. About to split up, another mid-level boss stops and charges in, but Mob easily confronts him and sends him flying back and causes more attention and alarms. Okay, while this mission might seem impossible from the get-go, there was actually a way easier way to get through this without getting discovered as quickly as they did. Rushing in without thinking was dumb as hell, because the Claw organization is a terrorist organization hell-bent on overthrowing the world. This alone would make it a tall order for any business to achieve, and means that it's safe to assume that this base would have been guarded like a mofo. Since Taru mentioned that he'd be looking for these bad guys for ages, he could have told us that the outer area would have likely been patrolled by these horrifying psychics known as Scars, and one of the strongest commands within this company usually led by the most powerful psychic there, known as the division leader. Even if we were pressed for time trying to save Ritsu, I would have first tried looking for other psychic members to help us out on this crazy mission, and then the off chance that we couldn't, I could have at a bare minimum relied on Taru's charm. This guy's one charismatic guy, alright? I would have had him try to convince some people at school and have them come along. However, I would have instructed him to lie to the kids by telling them we'll pay them to help us explore an interactive escape room in this facility, without telling them what it really is, obviously. Entering with a bigger group consisting of mostly humans would at the very least helped us use them as shields on meat. As well, we could hide our powers a little better from the enemy while sneaking in, because psychics can sense other psychics and their powers when nearby. But by hiding behind tons of normies means we could have hid our presence for a bit longer and then use these kids as perfect distractions, allowing us to get further in without encountering much resistance. Heading in, they split up to find Ritsu, but quickly run into a new breed of awakened psychics, and they're now about to make their life into a living hell. Matsuo here tells Dimple what this facility is really up to. They kidnap weak psychics and torture them as pain awakens their true powers. Dimple knows he can't beat him and tries to run but gets the shit kicked out of him. He can't hold on for much longer, but spots this guy's weakness. Each time this guy's pets attack, they quickly rush back to defend him, which must mean without them, this guy's weak as hell. Thinking fast, Dimple tries to outsmart him in combat, but instead gets outsmarted himself and is now captured. Meanwhile, Taru tries to overpower the fire-powered Miyagama. Putting up a force field, he quickly figures out he can't attack him if his force field is up, and he will soon pass out from the heat around him if he doesn't put his force field down. Thinking fast, Taru fires his own force field right at Miyagama, trapping him in all of his fire and heat together, causing him to burn alive instantly. Thinking he's won, this other psychic surprises him from behind and knocks him out. Meanwhile, Mob is looking for his brother when he runs into some creepy dolls controlled by puppeteer master Mukai. Mob easily defeats them, but finds out he just pissed off Mukai's trainer, the real bad guy, this woman named Suchi. Analyzing her, she has built up enough Qigong energy around her body and can channel all that power through her fist or knees. She lunges at Mob and continuously attacks his way. Mob realizes he can't do anything if he doesn't have an opening, so he starts crying crying instead, forcing Sushi to stop the fight and ask what's up. He tells her that he doesn't want to hurt a woman because his master Reagan told him so. Sushi calls him an asshole but a gentleman and convinces him to put up a fair fight. Agreeing, Mob does put up a fair fight, making Sushi realize it was never a fair fight to begin with, and even this other rando guy's ass gets absolutely demolished. Pushing through the facility, he finally spots Ritsu passed out on the floor. Seeing him injured, he starts to feel himself losing it even faster, 92% until Mob explosion. And suddenly this Muto guy shows up and starts viciously attacking him. 98, 99, and doesn't stop there until, oh shit, 100%. Mob explodes and fries this guy instantly. Just as this kid, Suzuki, shows up, the most powerful psychic of all. He reveals all of this was a trap designed to make Mob lose his shit, and now they have captured all of them. They now dump all of them into this room designed to turn off their powers, making them helpless. All the while a special guest tracks Mob's location nearby. Mob tells Teru that Ritsu can help them get out because unlike him, he's not useless without his powers, making Ritsu feel bad for being so mean to his brother all these years, and then he makes up with Mob. Someone suddenly enters their cage. It's Reagan. Reagan secretly tells them how he basically snuck into this facility and made everyone think he was the big mysterious claw boss through sheer confidence, and tells Mob that since he's been missing work, he followed him here, leading everyone out, including the grunts of the claw organization. Turning this corner, they finally run into the real bad guys, leader Ishiguro and the team. They know Reagan isn't the real mysterious boss because the real boss isn't supposed to show up here for another 2 days. Reagan tells the minions he's made friends with to leave before they get hurt. Ishiguro asks who he is, but Reagan totally bullshits them, saying he's the greatest psychic in the country, and pisses off the bad guys, and they show off their powers, trapping them, freaking Reagan out that there are more psychics like Mob out there. But he keeps his cool. Mob tries to attack the boss, but they discover that she controls gravity easily and knocks Mob down. Reagan runs up and anti-psychic drop kicks her as payback for harming his student, and tells Mob that he didn't know how much Mob was being pushed to his limit all this time, and scolds Ishiguro and her team for causing him stress. Reagan is angry and scolds the bad guys and tells them that they should have let the kids leave while he fights them, and whips out his totally fake 5 yen hypnosis coin. Approaching the bad guys, they don't sense any psychic powers coming from him and get confused as he performs his signature hypnosis punch, and that was his biggest mistake. They realize he's bluffing and try to attack. Mob quickly defends everyone as Reagan quickly realizes his plan backfired, and he tells the kids to run while he handles them, but Mob quickly sees all of his friends getting attacked and getting their ass kicked, which causes him to stress out real fast. 88% until Mob explosion, begs them all to not fight and run, but Ritsu think Mob is the only one who can save them. 91%. Mob watches everyone he loves getting hurt, and now he can feel that his explosion will be more powerful than it's ever been before. 94% yells to run. Seeing Mob about to lose it, 99%, he goes to slap him, telling him to chill out and teaches him a new life lesson. He doesn't always have to fight and handle the world's problems. But that's when Reagan gets sliced down by this bad guy. Oh, whoa, everything went tits up real fast here, didn't it? But there was a way that Reagan could have deceived Ishiguro enough for Mob to more easily take him out. If I was him, I would have spent time chatting him up a little bit longer. I mean, come on, you just BS'd your way in there. Couldn't you chat for a little bit longer? Because if he could have, this would have helped us peek into his character to see if he had any flaws in this bad guy belief system that we could have used to exploit and basically shatter his confidence. One way through conversation we could have done this would have been by seeing if he expressed any doubts or hesitations or contradictions in his statements. That would have told us if he was not confident in his actions, such as talking about his pursuit of power or the consequences of using his powers. If this line of conversation hit a nerve with him by making him act defensive, for example, this could have told us that he had uncertainties about his own path. We could have delayed the time enough that Mob could have used this to take out Ishiguro, and we could have ended this day without getting our back sliced, all through just pure conversation. Mob is shocked, and this triggers everything. 100% Mob explosion. Mob tries not to freak out, but suddenly Reagan gets up, still alive, and is as confident as ever, shocking everybody, including me. This monster attacks him. He tells Mob to help, but realizes he's now powerful as balls, and thinks that these psychics must be fake, while everyone else wonders if Reagan was pretending not to have powers this entire time, because he easily wipes the floor with these baddies, and Reagan thinks he's on a roll today, baby. Mob, still in shock, watches from behind and wonders why his amazing master never showed his powers before, not realizing that his energy during his freakout accidentally got directed towards Reagan 1000%, now making him the most overpowered character here. It's glorious. Seeing the team get defeated, Ishiguro goes completely apeshit on him, slamming him to the floor, thinking he's finally won, but Reagan gets back up again and gives him a taster, making him finally realize that Mob must have temporarily given him his powers. With no plan B, the bad guy members try to convince Reagan why world domination is the most logical move, but he tells them they rely too much on their powers and basically need to get out into the world more, and they really just want to escape from society because they're scared, brutally crushing all of their worldviews super quickly. Ishiguro tells him that he's destined for greatness, but suddenly gets knocked out by Suzuki, shocking everyone. This kid reveals that he isn't a low-level minion, but actually works for the big claw organization bosses, and came back here to recruit the bad guys to join him back at headquarters, but now thinks everyone is too weak, and says says goodbye to everyone and says that he'll see them all again real soon, and he disappears. Now finally Dimple breaks free and says he's now absorbed all the ghosts in the vase that he was trapped in and now has all his old powers back, but he will use them for good now because he likes being part of this team and he has no friends. The rest of the bad guys realize that they were the weak ones all along and give up their evilness. And the next day Mob and his bro become best friends again and realize their differences are what made them unique, and Mob learns to enjoy life more, trying out new things even if he isn't good at it, and does the same things he did before, but this time with a more positive outlook about himself and life. And Reagan, despite losing his powers, can still see Dimple. Interesting. All the while as Riso and the team all team up to go part-time on cases, while Teru ends up going to Rich Guy's lab to help him train more psychics, preparing for the day when the Claw organization finally returns. But what do you guys think about the video? Let us know what you like about it and what you didn't like about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And as always, don't forget to check out our How to Beat playlist.